12 celebs Hollywood won't cast anymore. What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest stars didn't just fade away? They were quietly pushed out. From Oscar winners to billion-dollar box office icons, these celebrities once dominated the spotlight, until suddenly they didn't. No headlines, no official statements, just fewer roles, smaller projects, and eventually, silence. Was it scandal, bad choices, or something deeper within Hollywood itself? The truth isn't always what it seems. Today, we're uncovering the real reasons why these famous names are no longer being cast like they used to. And trust me, some of these stories will completely change how you see the industry forever. Kevin Spacey. Once regarded as one of the most commanding actors of his generation, Kevin Spacey's career illustrates how quickly Hollywood can distance itself from even its most decorated figures. A two-time Academy Award winner, Best Supporting Actor for The Usual Suspects, 1995, and Best Actor for American Beauty, 1999, Spacey built a reputation on complex, often morally ambiguous characters. His portrayal of Frank Underwood in Netflix's House of Cards further cemented his dominance in modern television, earning him multiple Emmy nominations and global recognition. However, in 2017, Spacey's trajectory shifted dramatically. Actor Anthony Rapp publicly accused him of sexual misconduct, an allegation that sparked a wave of similar claims. While Spacey denied or disputed several accusations, the immediate industry response was swift and severe. Netflix cut ties with him, halting production of House of Cards, and later continuing the series without his character. His scenes in Ridley Scott's All the Money in the World were entirely reshot with Christopher Plummer, a rare and costly move reportedly adding millions to the film's budget. The legal landscape surrounding Spacey has been complex. In 2022, a U.S. jury found him not liable in the civil case brought by Rapp. In 2023, he was acquitted of multiple sexual assault charges in the United Kingdom. Despite these outcomes, the damage to his professional standing has been profound. Major studios have largely avoided casting him, reflecting not only legal considerations, but also reputational risk in an industry increasingly sensitive to public perception. In recent years, Spacey has appeared in smaller independent European productions, signaling attempts at a gradual return. Yet these roles lack the scale and visibility of his previous work. His case highlights a broader shift in Hollywood. Talent alone no longer guarantees longevity. Public accountability, brand safety, and audience sentiment now play decisive roles in determining who remains in the spotlight and who is left on its margins. Bill Cosby. For decades, Bill Cosby stood as a towering figure in American entertainment, widely known as America's Dad for his role as Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show, 1984 to 1992. The series was not only a ratings powerhouse, frequently topping Nielsen charts, but also culturally significant, portraying an affluent black family in a way that reshaped television narratives. Cosby's influence extended beyond acting into comedy, education advocacy, and philanthropy, earning him numerous awards, including multiple Grammys. Yet his legacy underwent a profound and irreversible transformation. Beginning in the mid-2000s, dozens of women came forward accusing Cosby of drugging and sexually assaulting them over several decades. In 2018, he was convicted of aggravated indecent assault in Pennsylvania and sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. This marked a historic moment as he became one of the first high-profile figures convicted during the broader #MeToo movement. In 2021, Cosby's conviction was overturned by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court due to a violation of his due process rights related to a prior agreement with prosecutors. He was released after serving nearly 3 years. Importantly, the court's decision did not equate to a declaration of innocence, but rather addressed procedural issues in how the case was handled. Despite his release, Cosby's professional standing remains effectively dismantled. Syndicated reruns of The Cosby Show were pulled from many networks, honorary degrees were revoked, and industry institutions distanced themselves. Unlike temporary career downturns caused by box office failures or creative disputes, Cosby's situation represents a near-total severance from mainstream entertainment. In recent years, he has expressed interest in returning to stand-up comedy, but such plans face significant public and industry resistance. His case underscores a pivotal change in Hollywood and society at large. Allegations of serious misconduct, especially when supported by multiple accusers, can permanently alter a career, regardless of past achievements. Cosby's story is not one of fading relevance. It is one of a legacy fundamentally redefined. Charlie Sheen. At his peak, Charlie Sheen was one of the highest-paid actors on television, earning nearly $1.8 million per episode for 2.5 Men. Known for his charisma and sharp comedic timing, Sheen built a successful career through films like Platoon, 1986, Wall Street, 1987, and later dominating television audiences in the 2000s. His larger-than-life persona, however, would ultimately blur the line between on-screen performance and off-screen reality. The turning point came in 2011. Amid reports of substance abuse, erratic behavior, and public outbursts, including widely broadcast interviews where he coined phrases like winning and tiger blood, Sheen's relationship with CBS and the show's producers deteriorated rapidly. After publicly criticizing creator Chuck Lorre, Sheen was officially fired, ending his run on one of the most successful sitcoms in television history. The fallout was immediate. Production halted, contracts were terminated, and Sheen's reputation within the industry took a significant hit. Although he attempted a comeback with Anger Management, 2012 to 2014, the show failed to reach the same level of success and was eventually canceled. In 2015, Sheen publicly disclosed that he was HIV positive, revealing that he had spent millions over the years to keep his diagnosis private. This announcement reshaped public perception, drawing both sympathy and further scrutiny. Since then, Sheen has appeared sporadically in smaller projects, but major studios have largely distanced themselves. His decline was not due to lack of talent, but rather a combination of professional instability, public controversies, and strained industry relationships. Hollywood, increasingly risk-averse, tends to avoid figures associated with unpredictability, especially when it affects production reliability. Today, Charlie Sheen's story serves as a cautionary tale. From commanding one of the highest salaries in entertainment to struggling for consistent roles, his career reflects how quickly Hollywood can pivot away from even its most bankable stars when personal issues overshadow professional value. Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan's rise to fame was nothing short of meteoric. Beginning as a child star in Disney's The Parent Trap, 1998, she quickly became one of the most recognizable young actresses of the early 2000s. Films like Freaky Friday, 2003, and Mean Girls, 2004, not only achieved commercial success, but also cemented her as a defining face of her generation. With talent, charm, and box office appeal, Lohan seemed destined for long-term Hollywood dominance. However, her trajectory shifted dramatically in the late 2000s. As her fame grew, so did intense media scrutiny. A series of legal issues, including multiple arrests for DUI, probation violations, and court appearances, began to overshadow her work. Between 2007 and 2012, Lohan entered rehabilitation programs several times, and her reliability on set became a growing concern within the industry. Producers reportedly viewed her as a high-risk investment. There were increasing accounts of tardiness, insurance complications, and unpredictable behavior, all of which are critical factors in large-scale film production. As a result, major studios gradually stopped offering her leading roles. Even when she did appear in films, such as I Know Who Killed Me, 2007, the projects performed poorly both critically and commercially, further damaging her standing. In the 2000s, Lohan's career shifted towards smaller productions, television appearances, and international projects. While she maintained public visibility, her presence in mainstream Hollywood diminished significantly. Unlike some actors who step away voluntarily, Lohan's reduced opportunities were largely tied to industry hesitation and reputational challenges. In recent years, she has made efforts toward a comeback, including a multi-film deal with Netflix, starting with Falling for Christmas, 2022. This signals a cautious re-entry into the spotlight, suggesting that while Hollywood may distance itself, it rarely closes the door entirely. Lindsay Lohan's story is a striking example of how early success does not guarantee longevity. In an industry where consistency and professionalism are as valuable as talent, even the brightest stars can find themselves sidelined when those expectations are not met. Katherine Heigl. Katherine Heigl once stood at the forefront of Hollywood's leading actresses, balancing success on both television and film with remarkable momentum. She rose to prominence through her role as Dr. Izzy Stevens on Grey's Anatomy, a performance that earned her a Primetime Emmy Award in 2007. Simultaneously, she became a box office draw with romantic comedies like Knocked Up, 2007, and 27 Dresses, 2008, positioning her as one of the most sought-after actresses of her time. However, her ascent was followed by a noticeable and often discussed decline. A major turning point came in 2008 when Heigl withdrew her name from Emmy consideration, stating that she did not feel she had been given material worthy of a nomination. While she later clarified her intentions, the move was widely interpreted within the industry as a public criticism of the show's writers. Around the same time, she also voiced concerns about Knocked Up, describing certain elements as a little sexist. These comments, though reflective of personal perspective, contributed to a growing perception that she was difficult to work with. In Hollywood, reputation can be as influential as talent. Reports began to circulate suggesting that Heigl's on-set demeanor and outspoken nature made collaborations challenging. Whether exaggerated or not, this narrative gained traction and affected casting decisions. As studios prioritize reliability and cohesion, even minor controversies can escalate into long-term consequences. Following her departure from Grey's Anatomy, Heigl continued to work in film and television, but many of her projects failed to achieve the same commercial or critical success as her earlier work. Films like One for the Money, 2012, underperformed, and her transition back to television included roles in series that were short-lived. In recent years, Heigl has taken steps toward rebuilding her career, including roles in streaming platforms and more stable television productions. Her story reflects a broader truth about Hollywood. Perception can redefine opportunity. While talent opened doors, public image and industry relationships ultimately influenced how long they stayed open. Today, she remains active, but her journey serves as a reminder of how quickly momentum can shift in an unforgiving industry. Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes was once a defining action star of the 1990s and early 2000s, known for his commanding screen presence and versatility, with standout performances in films like New Jack City, 1991, Demolition Man, 1993, and most notably the Blade trilogy. Snipes helped shape the modern superhero genre before it became a dominant force in Hollywood. The original Blade, 1998, alone grossed over $130 million worldwide, proving that comic book adaptations could succeed commercially. Despite his success, Snipes' career faced significant challenges that gradually pushed him out of Hollywood's inner circle. One of the earliest issues emerged during the production of Blade Trinity, 2004, where reports surfaced of conflicts between Snipes and the film's director and crew. Allegations of unprofessional behavior, including limited communication and on-set tensions, began to circulate, affecting his reputation among studios. However, the most impactful turning point came from legal troubles. In 2008, Snipes was convicted on federal charges related to tax evasion and later served approximately 3 years in prison. This period not only removed him from active participation in the industry, but also significantly damaged his public image. For major studios, legal issues of this magnitude introduce financial and reputational risks, often leading to reduced casting opportunities. Following his release, Snipes worked steadily to rebuild his career, appearing in smaller films and eventually making a notable return in The Expendables 3, 2014. More recently, his role in Dolomite Is My Name, 2019, alongside Eddie Murphy, received positive attention, showcasing his enduring talent and screen presence. While Snipes has not fully regained his former blockbuster status, his efforts demonstrate resilience. His trajectory highlights how off-screen factors, legal issues, industry relationships, and public perception can outweigh even proven box office success. In Hollywood, redemption is possible, but it often comes gradually, requiring consistent work and a willingness to adapt. Wesley Snipes' story is not just about decline. It is also about persistence in an industry where second chances are rare but not impossible. Monique. Monique's career stands as one of the most debated examples of how industry dynamics can influence an actor's trajectory beyond talent alone. A powerful performer with a commanding presence, she reached the pinnacle of critical acclaim with her role in Precious, 2009, a film that earned her the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in 2010. Her portrayal was widely praised for its emotional intensity and depth, positioning her as one of the most compelling actresses of that period. Yet, instead of opening doors to a wave of high-profile roles, her career took an unexpected turn. Central to this shift was a dispute surrounding the promotional campaign for Precious. Monique declined to attend several international events, including major film festivals, citing the lack of additional compensation beyond her reported $50,000 salary for the film. From her perspective, she had fulfilled her contractual obligations. However, within the industry, this decision was perceived differently. Reports emerged suggesting that key figures, including influential producers and executives, viewed her stance as uncooperative. Whether fair or not, this perception had lasting consequences. Monique later spoke openly about feeling blackballed, alleging that her refusal to participate in unpaid promotional work led to a significant reduction in opportunities. While Hollywood has never formally confirmed such claims, her absence from major studio projects in the years following her Oscar win is notable. In the years since, Monique has continued to work in stand-up comedy, television, and independent films, maintaining a loyal fan base. More recently, there have been signs of renewed collaboration with industry figures, hinting at a possible reconciliation. Her story reflects a critical reality. Success in Hollywood is not determined by talent alone. Relationships, expectations, and behind-the-scenes negotiations can shape careers just as powerfully. Monique's journey raises important questions about fairness, compensation, and the balance of power in the entertainment industry, making her one of the most intriguing cases of a star whose momentum was unexpectedly halted. Hayden Christensen. Hayden Christensen's career is often cited as a striking example of how audience perception can influence long-term opportunities in Hollywood. Emerging as a promising young actor in the early 2000s, Christensen gained critical recognition for Life is a House, 2001, earning a Golden Globe nomination. Shortly after, he stepped into global stardom as Anakin Skywalker in Star Wars: Attack of the Clones, 2002, and Revenge of the Sith, 2005. While the Star Wars prequels were commercially successful, grossing billions worldwide, the reception to Christensen's performance was mixed. Criticism, often directed at both the script and acting, became a defining narrative in public discourse. Over time, this backlash contributed to a perception that overshadowed his earlier promise, despite the broader complexities involved in large franchise productions. Following Star Wars, Christensen appeared in several films, including Jumper, 2008, which achieved moderate box office success but did not significantly elevate his standing. A pattern emerged where projects either underperformed critically or failed to resonate strongly with audiences. In an industry where momentum is crucial, this inconsistency played a role in limiting high-profile casting opportunities. Unlike many actors who actively pursue continuous visibility, Christensen chose a different path. He stepped away from the spotlight for extended periods, even purchasing farmland in Canada and focusing on a quieter lifestyle. This deliberate distance from Hollywood further reduced his presence in mainstream cinema, making him a less immediate choice for major productions. In recent years, however, there has been a noticeable shift. Christensen reprised his role as Darth Vader in Obi-Wan Kenobi, 2022, receiving a more positive response from audiences, particularly longtime fans who have re-evaluated the prequel era more favorably. This resurgence highlights how time can reshape public opinion. Hayden Christensen's journey underscores a key truth. In Hollywood, perception can be as influential as performance. His reduced presence was not solely due to lack of ability, but rather a combination of critical reception, career choices, and evolving audience sentiment, factors that continue to define casting decisions in a highly competitive industry. Taylor Lautner. Taylor Lautner's rise to fame was rapid, intense, and closely tied to one of the most successful young adult franchises of all time. Cast as Jacob Black in The Twilight Saga, 2008 to 2012, Lautner became a global sensation almost overnight. At the height of the series' popularity, he was not only a fan favorite, but also one of the highest-paid young actors, reportedly earning up to $7.5 million for later installments. His physical transformation and on-screen presence helped define the character, making him a central figure in the franchise's success. However, once Twilight concluded, Lautner faced the difficult transition that many franchise stars encounter, proving versatility beyond a defining role. His first major post-Twilight lead, Abduction, 2011, was intended to establish him as an action star. Instead, the film underperformed critically and commercially, and his performance received mixed to negative reviews. This setback proved significant, as Hollywood often places strong emphasis on an actor's ability to carry projects independently. In the years that followed, Lautner appeared in smaller roles and ensemble casts, including Grown Ups 2 and the Netflix series The Ridiculous Six. While these projects maintained his visibility, they did not reposition him as a leading man. Industry perception gradually shifted, with casting decisions reflecting uncertainty about his range and long-term box office appeal. Another factor influencing his trajectory was typecasting. Lautner became closely associated with youthful, physically driven roles, which became harder to sustain as he matured. Without a clear transition into more diverse or complex characters, opportunities in major productions became limited. Unlike some actors whose careers declined due to controversy, Lautner's case is rooted more in market positioning and role evolution. In recent years, he has taken a step back from high-profile projects, focusing on selective appearances and personal life. His story highlights a recurring pattern in Hollywood. Early success, particularly within a single franchise, does not guarantee longevity unless it is followed by strategic reinvention. Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire's career reflects a more nuanced shift rather than a sudden fall. best known for portraying Peter Parker in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy, 2002 to 2007, Maguire became one of the defining faces of early 2000s blockbuster cinema. The first two films were both critical and commercial successes, with Spider-Man 2 often cited as one of the greatest superhero films ever made. At the time, Maguire was firmly established as a leading man capable of carrying large-scale productions. However, the reception of Spider-Man 3, 2007, marked a turning point. Although the film grossed nearly $900 million worldwide, it received mixed reviews, with criticism aimed at its tone and narrative complexity. While this did not immediately derail Maguire's career, it coincided with a broader industry shift toward rebooting franchises, ultimately leading to a new actor taking on the Spider-Man role. Following this period, Maguire appeared in fewer leading roles. Films like Brothers, 2009, and The Great Gatsby, 2013, demonstrated his continued acting ability, but his presence in major mainstream projects became less consistent. Rather than pursuing constant on-screen visibility, Maguire increasingly shifted his focus toward film production, working behind the scenes on various projects. Off-screen, his name surfaced in connection with high-stakes underground poker games, later detailed in Molly's Game. While not illegal in itself, the association contributed to a more complex public image. In Hollywood, perception plays a subtle but important role, and such narratives can influence how actors are viewed by studios and collaborators. Despite a quieter period, Maguire's return in Spider-Man: No Way Home, 2021, was met with strong audience enthusiasm, demonstrating that his legacy within the franchise remains powerful. His case differs from others in that he was not entirely pushed out, but rather gradually stepped away from leading roles while the industry evolved around him. Tobey Maguire's journey illustrates that fading from the spotlight does not always equate to exclusion. It can also reflect changing priorities, shifting market trends, and the natural life cycle of a Hollywood career. Mike Myers. Mike Myers was once one of the most dominant comedic forces in Hollywood. Known for his sharp wit, memorable characters, and an ability to turn absurd humor into massive box office success. Rising from Saturday Night Live, he built a powerhouse career with franchises like Austin Powers and Shrek. The Austin Powers trilogy alone grossed over $670 million worldwide, while Shrek became a global phenomenon, with the franchise surpassing $3.5 billion in total revenue. At his peak, Myers was not just relevant, he was essential to mainstream comedy. However, his momentum began to shift in the late 2000s. The most significant turning point came with The Love Guru, 2008, a film that was both a critical and commercial failure, holding a single-digit approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. The backlash was strong, and for a comedian whose brand relied heavily on audience reception, this marked a serious blow. In Hollywood, one major flop can be absorbed, but when it challenges an actor's core appeal, the consequences can be lasting. Another factor was creative stagnation. Critics and audiences began to feel that Myers was relying too heavily on familiar, character-driven humor without evolving his style. The later entries in his established franchises, while still financially successful, were sometimes seen as diminishing returns in terms of originality. Unlike many actors who fade due to controversy, Myers' reduced presence was more tied to industry perception and shifting comedic tastes. As comedy evolved toward more grounded or contemporary styles, his exaggerated, sketch-based approach became less dominant in mainstream cinema. In the years that followed, Myers stepped away from frequent leading roles, appearing only occasionally, such as in Inglourious Basterds, 2009, and later projects. His absence from major studio films reflects how quickly Hollywood can pivot when audience preferences change. Mike Myers' career highlights a key reality. Even the most successful entertainers must adapt. In an industry driven by trends and reception, past success does not guarantee continued demand, especially when the landscape itself evolves. Seann William Scott. Seann William Scott became a cultural icon in the early 2000s, thanks to his unforgettable role as Steve Stifler in the American Pie series. His performance defined a generation of teen comedies, with the franchise collectively earning over $990 million worldwide. Scott's high-energy comedic style, combined with his ability to fully commit to outrageous characters, made him a standout figure during that era. Following the success of American Pie, Scott appeared in a string of comedies including Dude, Where's My Car? 2000, Road Trip 2000, and Old School 2003. These films reinforced his image as the go-to actor for wild, party-driven humor. For a time, this typecasting worked in his favor, as studios consistently cast him in roles that matched audience expectations. However, this same typecasting eventually became a limitation. As the popularity of early 2000s teen comedies declined, so did the demand for the specific archetype Scott was known for. Hollywood began shifting toward different comedic tones, more situational, character-driven, or genre blending, which left fewer opportunities for actors associated with a narrower style. Attempts to branch out into more diverse roles were relatively limited, and without a strong transition into other genres, Scott's presence in major studio productions gradually decreased. Unlike actors who reinvent themselves through dramatic roles or high-profile collaborations, Scott remained closely tied to his earlier persona. Despite this, he continued working steadily, particularly in voice acting, most notably as Crash in the Ice Age animated franchise. These films were commercially successful, but voice roles often do not carry the same visibility as leading live-action performances. Scott's career trajectory is less about controversy and more about evolution, or the lack of it, within a changing industry landscape. His decline in major roles reflects how quickly Hollywood moves on when a specific genre or character type falls out of favor. Seann William Scott remains a recognizable name, but his journey underscores a broader truth. Sustaining longevity in Hollywood often requires reinvention, especially when early success is tied so closely to a single defining role. So now the question is, do these stars deserve a second chance, or has Hollywood made the right call? Is talent enough to overcome controversy, or should reputation define a career? Everyone has their own opinion, and that's exactly what makes this discussion so interesting. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think. Should these actors return to the spotlight or stay out of it for good? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next deep dive on American Icon stories. Your voice matters here. Let's start the conversation.